I've been teasing this project since autumn of 2021, I think. Today we're going to get it done and cap off this part of my Victorian adventures. I hope you'll like the results, because this project has been nothing but trouble. Suffice to say, this isn't any kind of tutorial, it's more a comedy of errors. If we rewind to 2021, after the base layers and walking skirt, the next item on my list of garments to make was an Edwardian blouse. I had decided on, and purchased the pattern for, the truly Victorian 1908 countryside blouse, mostly due to their expanded sizing range. Size inclusivity is a huge factor in the garments I've been making, because while more commercial and independent companies have been slowly expanding their size ranges, it's still rather hit or miss. Whatever else you might want to say about Truly Victorian, they do cater to larger sizes. I wish more pattern companies would make the attempt, because while some folks online have said it's fun and easy to just make your own patterns, I'm sure it's a lot easier to learn how to pattern for yourself when you don't have to do full boob, belly, and badonkadonk adjustments. Honestly, I could probably go on about straight size privilege and how easy it is to say, then just make your own patterns, when you're a size that's catered to by the majority of the hobby garment sewing industry and many boutique sustainable brands. But the fact remains, I had a pattern that should fit, so that wasn't my problem. The issue I had was color. If you look at many photos or recreations from the era, it looks like everyone wore starched white blouses. To which I call shenanigans. From everything I've heard, Victorians were all about the wild colors, to the point of poisoning themselves for the right shade of green. So I can't believe they'd do a 360 within 10 to 15 years just because some guy's pictures of girls with precarious hair placement became really popular. I'm already extremely pale with rather pink undertones, so stark white just washes me right out. It's also a pain to try shooting reveal shots unless you get the lighting just right. I learned that with the underwear. I'd go for black as befits my personal aging goth aesthetic, but again, it doesn't look good on me. It washes all of the color out of my face, which, if I was actively trying to look like the living dead, would probably qualify as #goals. But I wanted to be able to wear this blouse whenever I want, so what to do? This is a swatch wallet. If you've been watching a lot of fashion YouTube or TikTok, you probably have an idea of what it means. Mum gave me this purse-sized palette somewhere around September or October of 2021. There's another, more expansive swatch wallet around here somewhere, but it's been put in a safe place and hence lost. Probably to the same pocket dimension where missing socks and my earpods are kicking around. Mum had been holding on to this since the 1980s for me because she'd been a color analyst and hoped that one day I'd come to my senses and actually wear colors. Oh, Mum. According to the summer color palette, my choice neutrals are navy and brown, and black is the sole domain of the winter, to which club I do not belong. So my mum and my brother could wear all the black they desired. I was stuck with navy, or brown, or medium gray, which is nice in theory, but when you're a chubby kid looking at goth levels of gray, you start to resemble an ambulatory porpoise. Not ideal. Let me put it to you this way. Going goth is a challenge when your mother has decided you're a summer and thus should not wear black. Note, I didn't say it was impossible. Challenge accepted. I went to the local fabric depot. It's often not as expensive as Fabricland, doesn't require a yearly membership, and has a wider variety of stock because their primary customer base is not quilters. Sorry, quilters, but when you can't find basic silk or taffeta because there's a never-ending sale on quilters cotton, you learn where else to go. My friends, I give you burgundy. If you're a longtime viewer, you may recognize the fabric from my business casual medieval hood video, and if you're not a regular viewer, I'd recommend watching it next. I had enough fabric left over after cutting out the blouse for the hood lining. It was a good choice. I look good in blue reds. And that brings us up to the present, because not long after the blouse was cut out, the project went on to the back burner as other things started taking priority. Life has a way of doing that.
Thousands of tears later.
This is where I'm going to ask you to subscribe if you haven't, and maybe boop the like button, because it's trivial, but I love to see the number go up. If you can stay till the end of the video for the reveal, that would be fantastic, because unless I find something else that's not anxiety-inducing, this is now my full-time job, and I'd really like to be able to contribute to the mortgage. By the way, I do have Patreon linked in the description below. Channel memberships are coming soon. I found the pieces of the blouse where I'd stashed them away and dug out the patterns so I can make sure I know what everything is. Now I just need to sew everything together and make it look fancy. I found a couple of missing pieces, so I kept them from scraps. Day one was devoted mostly to the front placket of the blouse. This required more precision than one might think. I've tried to use the best clips of my footage in some sort of logical, chronological order, but I'm getting used to filming again, so my apologies if things are dark and muddy and not really all that clear. This is likely to improve with practice. Welcome to day 2, folks. Yesterday was really hot, and that's with all of the windows open in this place, trying to get any kind of airflow through. And it's not unexpected. The last week of June and first couple of weeks of July are usually the hottest part of Alberta's summer. Usually you get heat during the day, and during the afternoon and evening it turns into rain or a rainstorm or tornadoes, sometimes hail. So I'm glad that so far nothing has tried to strip the siding off of this house again. It means that by about 5 o'clock I was done with anything productive and went upstairs to sit between 2 fans, putting something else together so that I didn't have to wander around and do anything physical at the hottest parts of the day. Now, what that means is that I maybe got about 3 seams done on the blouse, and 2 of those seams are right front and center, and because I'm not used to using this beautiful little machine, they're kind of all over the place. I am going to rip those seams that are right on the front, and I'm going to run them through the faff to make sure that they are a little more presentable, because the faff has guides on it that will allow me to do that. While I'm down there, I'm going to run the gathering stitches because I would rather not, pardon the expression, faff around with the tension on the white rotary. Once I'm done that, we're going to come back up here and get some of those straight seams done so that I don't feel too bad about having a wonky seam. I guess we'll see how it all shakes out. Cleaned up the top stitching on the front placket. You could say I've never been a fan of that technique. It requires way too much precision, and like most folks who've been to art college, I can't draw a straight line without a ruler. I was happier once I'd settled in with a couple of YouTube videos to gather the yokes and attach them to the front and back pieces. Once the yokes were attached, I pinned the lining in place and hand stitched. I think I had enough of working on the blouse by about midnight last night. Figured that we would get started on it again today. Now it's time to work on the collar band and put in the sleeves and the sleeve bands. So hopefully we'll actually be done with the main blouse today.
Oh, my sweet summer child.
Collar pieces sewn, turned, and sewed into the neckline. Not appearing in this video was all the hand stitching I did rather than just top stitching everything in place because I'd already determined I'd botched my dexterity roll for stitching in the ditch. That's a Dungeons & Dragons joke for you folks who are either too old or too young for D&D, and I'd really like to know your excuse because I heard somewhere that Dame Judy denched dungeon masters for her grandkids. I hope that's true because it would not only be awesome but also really awkward if false. I French seamed the sides. In no particular order, make a 1/4 inch seam with wrong sides together, trim the seam allowance by half, turn out so right sides are together and press, seam again with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I also stayed up late putting plackets on sleeves. This is probably what's called burying the lead, and I'm not showing you the footage because it's really green. You'll see what I mean in a bit. It's more stable. More stable than I am right now. It's day 4 and I am just about ready to be done with this project. Probably would have been done if it wasn't for the placket on the sleeves, because these things are like an origami masterpiece, and because they bisect the middle of the sleeve, I had to take out all the gathering stitches that I had run along the bottom of it. So I gather the way that you're supposed to put it together is seam up the sides of the sleeve and then run the gathering stitches so that your placket has its chance to be right there hanging out in the middle of the sleeve, which I hadn't expected. Most of the plackets that I wind up putting into sleeves tend to be actually on the sleeve seam, so this is new. Definitely a new technique, so I am learning something, but definitely frustrated at the amount of time that it's taking, so there is a trade-off. Hoping to get the sleeve done and fitted in today so that we can get the main body of the blouse completed so I can get on to other things. I know I said that yesterday. Weather today is cooler, but that's because we have a smoke warning. I started with small things, like pressing the backstay and waist ties. I've been trying to batch tasks where possible right from the beginning to save time. I shudder to think how long it would take otherwise. These waist ties are really finicky, by the way. They're folded like bias binding, but thicker. Still can't top stitch to save my life. Then I finally went on to working on the sleeves and cuffs. Spoilers, it did not go well.
1 week later.
I managed to get that one cuff done, but it took so long I put it in timeout while I worked on another project. It doesn't look like much from that angle, but yes, I literally threw the cuff I was working on at the wall in frustration. Then I had to fish it out from behind the sewing machine. The project was in timeout for just under 2 years. I seriously don't think another week's going to hurt it. With the heat wave continuing into the end of July, I retreated into the basement to work on the blouse project. The one drawback to the basement is that it's very yellow-green down here. Also, I was a bit naive regarding the amount of work needed to finish this blouse. Just finish the cuffs and sew in the sleeves does not take into account gathering the back, sewing in the little stay back there, as well as the waist ties and installing buttons. Yeah, I forgot about the buttons. I thought I'd bought buttons to go with this blouse, but apparently I was mistaken. I am so glad I didn't promise a one-day make. The thing is, when I first started this project, like way back in 2021, I was excited for it. I remember dropping in on my parents after coming back from the store, showing my mother a swatch of the fabric, and getting generally good feedback on my choices. And then the blouse just sort of got associated with Mum in my mind, and when I could finally handle the emotional side of the project and literally pick the pieces back up, the technical side kicked me in the butt. This isn't a beginner project. The instructions are pretty clear and easy to follow, but for a project to ease back into sewing and making videos full-time, this was probably not the best choice. This is a good pattern for someone who's comfortable taking their time, particularly with detail work. I guess the upside is no pin tucks. That probably would have really driven me over the edge. If you want to find out more about color analysis for your own wardrobe, the book I've always referred to is Color Me Beautiful by Carol Jackson. I swiped mine from Mum since she obviously doesn't need it anymore. But I recommend looking at the used bookstore and library if you can't find it through your local bookseller, big box store, or Amazon. Links, if I can find them, will be in the video description, whatchamagigger as always. Amazingly, this isn't the end of the adventures with this particular blouse. When the next chapter is ready, you can find it somewhere up there. If you'd like to start from the beginning, I've included the playlist. Till next time.
You could give us a fake curtsy with the skirt you're not wearing. That's good. Are you going to give us the Manderville?
I kind of need to make a new corset. Or at least somehow manage to fix this one, because I think my seam job was not that great.